Over the last couple of years, I closed over 2.91 million US dollars in deals, and I win over 68% of those deals. And this is not just pure luck. This is a system, and about this system we're going to talk about today. To start things off, let's look into our HubSpot, where you can see the deals that we created over the last 20 months or so with our new company, enablement.ch. And you can see here we have 91 deals that enter the sales pipeline, the demo stage, and we close 63% of them, which is almost 70%. This is live. Just going to refresh this quickly so you can see this is live data. It's all time. Right? This is the entire history of our HubSpot. Now, how does that system work, and how are we able to create these insane numbers? So let's start things off with how actually does sales happen? What's the basic requirement for any sale, whether it's a Spotify subscription for $10 a month or a multi-million-dollar deal? It's always the same. You need, or point A current situation where the person or the company you're selling to is not happy. So this is the frowny face stage. Right, that's the point A. And you have a point B, it's the happy face stage, a desired state where someone wants to be. And your job is to identify, well, what's your current state? Why are you unhappy with that current state? And where do you want to go? What's the desired state? What's the desired outcome? What's your state B? Because all there is, essentially, is a gap. It's a gap. And you want to cover that gap and identify that gap. And the bigger that gap is, the more value there is in solving that gap. So, this is the crucial number one concept you need to understand about sales, because in the rest of the video, we're going to talk about how to identify that gap and how to use that gap. But first, before we even have these conversations where we identify gaps and look at how to close these gaps, we need something else first. We need leads. We need people to talk to and to sell to. So, and we do that by attracting a lot of people. So this is basically our four-step sales pipeline or sales process with different stages. So we have attracting new people. We have a qualification stage where we filter out the ones that are actually a good fit for us and are likely to buy. We have a demo process where we prove them that we actually can solve their business problem, that we can get them from A to B. And we have a closing process where we seal the deal, essentially. And if you fail to do the right steps at any of these stages, this will then trickle down and lead to problems down the line. So we need to understand each step of that sequence in order to basically make it work, because they are pieces of a puzzle. They are interlocked. So with the attract stage. So essentially, there's multiple ways how you can attract to people. The two ways we use and we've been very successful at is number one, outreach. Fairly simple. You just reach out to people and do through LinkedIn or cold email. It's obviously very hard to do that properly, but in theory it's quite simple, and there's other videos on the channel where we talk about this in great detail, how to actually do that. And the second thing we do in the second channel is LinkedIn personal branding. And the reason why I like LinkedIn personal branding so much is it creates trust at scale. People know you, they like you, they trust you because they've been following for you for some time. Now, what we recommend doing is actually combine the two. Create a personal brand on LinkedIn, attract lots and lots of people, and then reach out to them. And we call that method outbound. all bound. And the reason why we call it all bound, well, it's not just called outreach, but it's also not just posting stuff on LinkedIn and hoping something comes out of it. It's being proactive about it and use these signals to then automatically reach out to people. There's another video on the channel where I talk about the exact all bound flow that we use. But main key takeaway is here you need a big influx of people. You need a full lead pipeline with lots and lots of people to talk to. Because in the second step, then once you have a lot of people that want to talk to you, you can qualify them and qualify them hard. And what I mean by that is essentially what you need to, when you reach out to people or when you qualify people, you need to assess for a couple of things. First is, well, do they have a need, right? Do they need your solution? Do they have point A and want to go to point B? Do they want to act on that need, right? Basically take action. Zoom in a bit here so it's a bit easier to see that. Do they have the desire to act on said need, or are they just like, well, shopping around, tire kickers, like these type of things? So you want to obviously disqualify any of those guys because they just waste your time. So do they also want help with that? Or do they just want, well, basically do it themselves and figure it out themselves, which is fine, but then they don't need you as a software or a service provider to help them with that. The next thing essentially is, well, are they the right person to speak to? So we call that authority. Right? It doesn't, well, if they don't have any buying decision or buying power, it doesn't make sense to move forward until you get the person that can make decisions on the table. And we talk about this in a minute. Next thing is, although they have some sense of urgency, again, this is just to weed out tire kickers, people that are like, oh, this may or may not be a priority, we're just looking into solutions. Well, fine. Go follow my LinkedIn funnel, be exposed to my ideas and my brand, and then come back once you want to solve it. But before that, it doesn't make sense to speak to them in detail. Now, lastly, obviously the money question. The money question, well, do they have the purchasing power? Do they have the money in the bank that they could wire you today if you make them an offer that they found enticing? So, obviously, they need money to solve all that. And you want to basically build your sales script, like your qualification script, around exactly that. Now, the last thing that I want to add here is obviously you need to be able to actually fulfill these needs, i.e. be able to help them to actually get there. So basically, do you have a solution that fits their need, right? Like basically a problem solution fit. Now, these are the whole A to B side of things. So basically the graphic that I showed you before, that's basically the need. Do they want to act on it? Can you help them? Like these are these type of questions. And these are more, I call that logistics, where it's more about, well, can you actually help them? How you actually then basically make the purchase happen, these type of things. So they're more basically, if this is not met, doesn't make sense to speak about authority, logistics, all that. Doesn't make sense, right? Basically, first I need to see, hey, I have a problem, I want to solve it, and I believe that you have the solution. So this is basically A, I have a problem, B, I want to solve it, I want to get there, and the arrow is essentially you, hey, I want you to solve it with me and for me. So that's on the qualification stage. And if any of these steps is not met, it doesn't make sense to move forward. So that means if you don't have the economic buyer on the table, it doesn't make sense to move forward. We're talking here specifically about deals that worth like $15,000-$20,000. We don't talk here about like $100,000 deals. I used to sell that as well. Enterprise sales, different ball game. Here we talk specifically about $20,000, $30,000, $10,000 deals. They move very, very quickly if you do it right. So once the lead is qualified, and you will lose 30, 40, 50% here. This is okay. You even want that. You don't want to basically hand out demos to everyone that just raises their hand. You want to qualify people and people that are able to buy and want to buy in the demo. Because otherwise you're just wasting time. Because the demo is the one that takes time and you want to take your time hit there and want to do a good, fantastic job at the demo. So the demo is essentially the second side of the same coin, essentially. So qualification is all about, well, is your prospect a good fit? And with the demo, you're going to prove to your prospect, like, hey, I'm a good fit for you. So that's essentially the point of the demo. And what you want to achieve in the demo is that they believe that you can solve their problems. So this is ultimately the goal, and you want to achieve trust. You want to make sure people trust you. And you want to essentially achieve the following things. So you want to achieve trust. And trust in what exactly? Well, the solution. Right, that they believe, okay, hey, this is the right solution for my pain. But also that you are basically the right person to solve it for me, and that your company is the right company to solve it. And lastly, that have trust in themselves. And what I mean by that is, if you purchase software, let's say a CRM, and you don't think you will adopt it properly, like your sales team will not use it, or let's say you're going to a consultancy that helps you with your go-to-market and your email outreach, and you don't believe that you will be able to create good copy because you don't have a compelling offer, then if you don't believe in yourself, then everything else doesn't make sense. So basically, the demo is here to convince the prospect of these four things, that they believe, hey, this is the right solution for me. I believe you, whatever you say, I trust you. I trust the company and the product. And I trust in myself that I can actually harvest the fruits of my labor, of my investment. Basically, I can get a positive ROI. So this is ultimately, you want to have a ROI that's positive. And basically trends up. Right? That's essentially what everyone needs to believe after that demo. Now, the way you do that, you structure everything around exactly these four elements, these four dimensions of trust building. And the way you do that is quite straightforward. You need to obviously give them some context about the company and about you. They probably know you already. That's where personal branding and LinkedIn comes in. They already know you. They know the company, but is this also a bit of like the company pitch comes in. So you want to obviously do that. Maybe 5 minutes spent on education about the problem and how you solved it in the past. You solved it, right? If you haven't read the book Challenge the Sale, this is exactly that, where you basically educate someone about the problem, maybe reframe the problem a bit, and give them a new insight. We, for example, always tell people, hey, it's not just about fancy tools and the little tactics when you're trying to build a big and full pipeline. It's about a holistic system. So you need personal branding, you need a really good offer, you need a solid email infrastructure, you need clay tables that connect everything, you need solid reporting directly in your CRM. So this is where we start to educate people that, hey, this is not as simple as just getting an Apollo account and blasting email sequences on Limlist. It's just not that simple. So, and we have data essentially to prove that. And so this is kind of like where we do that. And this, again, creates trust. Hey, we are knowledgeable about the market and we understand your problem. So this is that. And then the majority of the sales presentation is essentially just, well, the demo itself. And the demo, the goal of the demo is that your prospect tells you like, hey, yes, I need this. I trust that this is the solution to my problem. And here you basically start at a strategic level and go into details. And you do not talk about features. You only talk about benefits. And these benefits need to be tangible. And what I mean by tangible benefits is your prospect needs to see how they get these benefits. So let's say, again, you're selling CRM software, you want to go through their sales process, show them how they can, whatever the problem is, let's say they never log emails and meetings, well, you just show them, hey, this is how we can solve that. Or they have specific reporting requirements. Well, you show them their report, how they would look like. That's why I said you want to invest a bit in that demo and prepare that demo maybe like half an hour before that, so you can actually, well, invest half an hour, not half an hour for the meeting, obviously. You want to invest like 30 minutes, maybe an hour into the demo to prepare that and make it actually solid. So they just don't see random use cases, they see their use cases. So it becomes believable and tangible, and they see that you can solve it for them. And after that part, basically the proof, like you demonstrate the capabilities that you can do whatever they need to do. You then want to essentially validate fit. And what I mean by that is you literally ask, hey, look, I showed you what I wanted to show you. Is that exactly what you wanted? You obviously do this on a micro level. So basically once you, like, hey, you basically told me in the last conversation you have like these 5 pain problems. And then you basically walk them through every single pain problem that they have. Like, hey, it takes me a lot of time to personalize my emails. I'll show you personalize the emails. Do you believe that this way of personalizing emails will bring you the desired result? Yes. Okay, tick. And you do that basically with every problem that they stated. So you prove them that you can solve it. And then in the end, you again basically summarize that and say, hey, look, we went through point A, B, and C. I showed you how we solved that. Do you believe that this is the right solution for your problem? That they say yes or no, or they say yes to, I think 1, 2, and 3 is easy. 4, 5, I have my doubts. I'm not sure if that's the right solution yet. Then you need to address those. And basically, until you get a tick of all boxes here, that they say, yes, it's the right solution. I'm 100% confident that you can solve these things. You basically erase any doubt. Then you move on to the next step, which is, again, the logistics. And this is also when buying questions will start to appear, such as, hey, well, how do we implement that? How do we, how long does it take? How much resource do we need internally to do that? Like, these are all buying questions. What kind of contract terms do you offer in terms of payment, like monthly, annually, et cetera, et cetera? So these are all the buying questions. And your job is here just to logically provide them. Hey, here how we do it. This is the exact roadmap, and just give them the confidence that, well, the implementation and the adoption of whatever you're selling is successful. This is pure rational here, the logistics, which is also why it's called logistics and not emotionals. So, and then the last thing, budget, because this is always comes up, and how to handle that, how to handle pricing. Very easy. I always, in the qualification meeting, you mentioned the budget already. Like, look, hey, based on that, this will cost around X, whatever X is. You don't have to, but usually you give ranges here. So you say like, look, hey, usually customers spend with us or invest with us between $2,000 a month and $10,000 a month, depending on what the needs are, I think you will end up probably in the $5,000 to $10,000 per month bracket. Could you see yourself investing in that amount? And then they say yes or no to that. And essentially, if they're not very convincing that they are able and willing to invest that, then it does make sense to move into the demo. So this is how you qualify for the budget. Is okay, if they're like, hey, this is the amount customers usually invest that are similar to you. Could you invest that if the offer is right? Yes, wonderful. Could you basically decide on that budget yourself? Yes, I could. No, I could not. Who else would we need to involve then? Well, we need to go with our CEO. Like, okay, well, if we do a demo, we need to have the CEO on board then. Again, because you want to frame the demo as, hey, in the demo, we're also going to make a decision. Otherwise, you're going to have maybe like a follow-up call, or you're going to have basically 2-3 other meetings coming. And that just increases your sales cycle, number one. And two, it increases your costs of customer acquisition, increase your CAC, because now you spend, instead of like an hour or two, you spend 3 or 4 hours. So it literally doubles your customer acquisition cost. So you want to avoid that at all costs and really frame the demo as a session where you make decisions. The decision can be, this is not for us, this is totally fine, but what you don't want is indecision. And we pay huge emphasis on that. And this brings me also to the next step. So if everything is fine, so okay, we talked about budget, we talked about logistics, we talked about like the solution, and we validated it's a good fit. We then ask them like, okay, well, can we sign, right? Can we close this deal? And the answer to that may be a yes, straightforward. You sign the contract, everyone's happy. Or the answer is no, and then you basically come into objections. And objections can be, I like to divide them into objective reasons, which is there's only 2 of those. And number one, it's money. And number 2 is money is, I don't have the money physically in the bank. I cannot invest that. I don't have the money. You cannot overcome them. So basically, objective reasons not to close, you can't really do anything at that moment. You can't send the money to then pay. It doesn't make sense. And you cannot overcome authority problems. If they have to go to the board of directors with this pitch, there's nothing you can do. They're not gonna just not go to the board of directors just because they like you. It's not going to happen. They put their job on the line. Not going to do that just for you, right? Like you may see in the B2C sales that someone says like, oh yeah, I should talk to my wife, and then you can convince them like, oh, you shouldn't talk to your wife. B2B, that just doesn't happen. If someone needs to involve procurement, you will have to involve procurement. So if they don't have the authority, you can't do much about that. However, this is a qualification issue. So they shouldn't be even sitting in the call with you if they don't have the authority, unless procurement. But again, this is a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 deal, not a $50,000, not a $100,000, not a $500,000 deal where you have to go through procurement. Different deals, I've done those, different level. So these are the 2 that you can't solve. Now, the other ones that you can solve are the subjective ones. And these are, I need to think about it. I need to talk to others. I need to do X, Y, Z. Think about it. I need to talk to others. I need to do X, Y, and Z. Basically, just a pretense of moving forward with you. And the thing here is, what you need to understand is, they are currently lacking confidence in moving forward with you, for whatever reason. There may be a valid reason, and there may be an invalid reason, and you have to basically now start a new discovery. This is super important, that objection handling is ultimately detection equals discovery. And you just have to discover, well, what's stopping this person from making a decision right now. And that is usually uncertainty. And you have to find out about what they're uncertain, right? Like if they need to think about it, or if they need to do an ROI calculation, or if they need to do whatever, there is something that does make them trust you. And you just have to ask questions like, okay, well, what do you need to think about? Well, just think about it. Like, that's a stupid answer, and like everyone knows this is a stupid answer. So what I usually then say is like, okay, well, if you tell me like you need to think about it, that means something makes you uncertain, and I'm just trying to understand if, like, what that is, right? And that could be, and now we go back to the 4 pillars of trust. It could be that they don't trust the solution. It could be that they don't trust themselves, that they actually can implement it. They don't trust the results. They don't trust the you as a company. They don't trust your methodology, something like that. Like, usually it's a trust issue that they don't trust one of these 4 pillars. What I usually just ask them is like, hey, is it that X? Is it Y? Is it Z? Right? Just go through them. And then people tell you what they're uncertain about. And then you can handle these objections. And essentially then it's just a loop between the uncertainty that you discover, handle, close, and then either it's yes or if more uncertainty, right? And that's just a cycle you go through with someone. Again, basically they're not stupid or they're not evil because they don't want to make a decision. It's just they are uncertain about something. So you just have to discover that. Could make an entire 30 or hour-long video about that in details and how we do that even through Slack sometimes. But the basic gist is you need to understand why they are not ready to purchase. If it's a objective reason, you can't handle those. What you then do is schedule the next call and handle it then, or you handle it in the call itself if it's a subjective reason and you overcome it then and there. Most important thing over this entire process, what you always have to keep in mind is from the moment someone enters the qualification stage, here, to the demo, to the close, and then eventually to the customer stage, this is a continuous string of meetings. It's always a next meeting, always a next meeting. So from qualification, well, it's like, okay, when are we going to do the demo? Okay, we're going to do it on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Okay, cool. Then you do the demo. You cannot close them because you have an objection that you cannot solve right then and there because they need to go to the board of directors. The board of directors needs to talk to you, whatever. Well, okay, when are we going to go through that with your BOD together? You schedule that. Okay, we're going to do that on Friday in a week at 1 p.m. Okay, great. Next meeting. They say, yes, let's start work together. You have the sale. Well, next thing you do is, well, when it's a kickoff, when does the implementation start? Next meeting. They are a customer now, they're a happy user. Okay, hey, when do we do a quarterly business review of our collaboration? Make sure you're happy. And so on and so forth. Basically, you never stop booking meetings with your customers. There's always next meeting. Always, 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 until they stop being a customer. And this is the entire magic behind our process that allowed me to close $2.91 million and makes me win 2/3 of every deal that I go into. All right. I hope you liked the video. I hope this was helpful, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.